high school leaders and young advocates. Welcome to the last day of the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice. My name is Gabby Baker.
And my name is Mayela Hernandez.
And we're here to talk to you a little bit about moving to action following the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice and your experience here today. So who are we? We are members of the Schlegel Center for Service and Justice here at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. We are an organization devoted to advocating for social justice, but then also taking action steps towards achieving those goals, including educating members of our community here on campus, but then also within Omaha and the greater national community.
So just as we start, we know that today is titled the Advocacy Day, so it's important to begin by defining what advocacy means. And the basic definition is an activity by an individual or group that aims to influence decisions within political, economic, and social institutions. Advocacy is very important because it promotes and protects human rights.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm a staff member in the Schlegel Center for Service and Justice, and just want to support and call out the work of Gabby and Mayela and you all who are watching along. As you know, as a Jesuit or Catholic institution, we have and fully embrace our mission. So part of our Jesuit mission, we stand and work as men and women for and with others. This is a central part of how we're able to do advocacy. So as we seek to change structures, as Mayela mentioned, with and sometimes on behalf of the poor and vulnerable, there are a few other items that Annie's going to mention.
Hello. So my name is Annie, like Kelly said, and as Kelly discussed, we do advocacy for and with others, right? And so something really important to remember when we're doing this advocacy work is having a balance of being for and with others. Oftentimes when you're doing advocacy work, you'll hear people say that we're giving a voice to the voiceless. And we want to try to avoid things like that because the reality is we all have a voice, right? No one is voiceless. It's more about accompaniment and power, right? So given that word, power, which is often a scary word for folks, I want to talk about empowerment also, which is something that we also hear a lot when we talk about advocacy work. So empowerment in theory is great, right? But the actual definition of empowerment is giving someone else the power. And I personally like to avoid using the term empowerment because just how everyone has a voice, the reality is that everyone has power. And the focus should be more on creating relationships where we can all come together and share that power and use it to create change rather than using our position of privilege and power to give that power to someone else, right? So it's about relationships, walking with others, working with others who are facing this issue head on firsthand. And so going with that, we do have to be realistic about when we are sharing stories and when we are working with people who are directly affected, right? It's not always a safe position for someone who is facing this head on to be sharing their experience, right? If you're working with folks who are undocumented, it might not be safe for them to explain their whole story and what they've been through in a legislative visit, right? So that's where the proportionality comes in of having both with and for, right? Because in those situations, asking someone if you can share their story on their behalf, right? And having that permission is so important. And also, if someone is willing to share their own story, making sure that you are providing support in the background, right? Maybe you have a code word that if they're getting too overwhelmed or if it's to a point re-traumatizing or whatever, at that point you can take over and help fill in the gaps or talk more about certain parts of the story that you really wanted to emphasize. So a critical point to focus on when you are doing this work in general is self-reflection on your role in this process.
So you might be wondering, how can I get involved following this entire weekend of just information and ways in which you want to enact change but aren't exactly sure how to do it? Well, first, find your passion. What makes you want to advocate? who do you want to work with to continue to advocate for and for different social justice issues? So what issues have you learned about or actually affect your community that you want to advocate about? Additionally, continue to educate yourself and remain informed. IFTJ is not the end of your time learning about this social justice issue, and just continue to learn about different things that are happening in our legislative system so that you can improve the ways in which you advocate for certain issues. Additionally, determine your own advocacy style. Do you like to be hands-on in your advocacy work, or are you more of someone that likes to do an indirect form of like writing a letter to your representative? Always seek support within your school. Your high school is a great example of ways in which you can advocate with others within your community, but then you can work with other community organizations and national organizations on social justice issues that are important to you.
So, like Gabby said, it is important to start off by determining your motivations. A few questions that you may ask yourself in order to really determine what it is that's important to you is asking yourself a list of these questions. So the first one is there something that you already love doing that you want to continue to do? What this week has inspired you to act? If you're not sure which item you would like to advocate for, brainstorming ideas is a really good thing to do, and you can work little by little in figuring out how it is that you can tackle these problems bit by bit.
As members within the Ignatian Advocacy team here at Creighton University, we all were called to advocate for certain justice issues, and we're each going to speak on what really drives us and motivates us to continue to advocate for change.
I continue advocating because I have experienced firsthand how difficult it can be for immigrants to feel comfortable in their own homes, and when all they want is to create a better future for their families. So I hope to be able to be a part in helping and be a part in their solidarity.
Hi, my name is Cameron, and I continue advocating because I believe in a faith that does justice. And so, in living out my faith and just trying to show God's love to other people, that means advocating and lifting those voices and standing in solidarity with others around me.
Hello again. I continue advocating because I believe that every human being has innate human dignity. And I envision a world in which every single human being has the resources that they need to thrive and be successful in everything.
I continue advocating because I really believe that our time and our resources here are borrowed from our grandchildren, are borrowed from the future. So I advocate for your great-grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren, and for all generations after who deserve a healthy, well planet where they and all people and all living things can flourish.
I continue advocating because I have a hope for the future of our world and the people within it. As an environmental science student and as an advocate for change, I continue to advocate for the work in which others are doing to promote the justice of our common home.
So now you guys have had an entire week where you have learned a lot. You have had all these resources thrown at you, and you have had amazing speakers. And that is really awesome. But the next step is to educate yourself. With all these issues, there might be something that really interested you, something that you thought, I would like to learn a little bit more about that. And there are great resources online. Here I have listed different resources that you can find for immigration justice, environmental justice, and racial justice, since those were the main topics you guys talked about throughout the week. And I also have some resources linked from the SCSJ. But just in general, a simple Google search can really go a long way with figuring out how it is that you can get started, figuring out the legislation that goes behind it. And all of these things are very important to do. So just make sure that you really take the time to learn before you go out, and that can really make you a better advocate and a better ally.
After you have educated yourself, remember that it is time for you to advocate. It's time for you to educate others. So in your day-to-day life, if you hear someone say something that is completely wrong, don't feel like you need to call them out like we've been told to. Call them in. Try and educate them in a way in which you're communicating why what they had said was wrong, but then ways in which they can advance using that education forward in their future life. We all are able to grow and learn from our everyday experiences. It never stops. So continue to educate yourself about issues and continue to educate others around you. Sometimes we always do need to regroup and point out what resources are most important for our advocacy efforts or just to learn more. So know that if you do lack information, you're going to be fearful of what you say. So continue to learn so that once you are talking about an issue that you're very passionate about, you have the resources in which you can continue to back up your claims. Don't ever spread false information, because that also will cause fear within others around you that you communicate with or about the issues that you're advocating about. And then now that you have learned so much within this weekend, continue to work towards a better and more just future by teaching others along the way.
So now we're going to continue as to how you are each called to action in different ways that you can do that.
So some physical action steps for you to do to advocate are both direct and indirect. Some direct action steps would be volunteering or doing work with an organization or club that is in your community, your school, or within our nation. You could attend a peaceful protest, aid in getting signatures for legislative pieces around your community or within our country, have a legislative visit with one of your representatives, set up a voting drive within your school, community, or campus, or even run for an office position.
Some indirect action steps that you can take is write a letter or call your representatives in your city, state, or national government. Use social media to promote advocacy work, and attend meetings for community organizations or local governments to remain up to date. Now we're going to hear from some of our SCSJ leaders, and as they talk about some things that they have also done in their physical action steps.
Hi, so I have done a lot of advocacy through the SCSJ, our Center for Service and Justice here. One of my favorite things in the direct side is doing legislative visits. This is a really good way to share those maybe personal stories or experiences, and also to listen to your peers that have those as well. Now in this kind of time that is happening, you can also set those up during Zoom or other platforms like that, and that's a really good way if your senator is available to talk in that way. In regards to like more indirect things, writing letters and calling your representatives is a very fast and easy way to get things done. So if there's something on your mind, just have that number saved in your phone and just pick up the phone and just leave a voicemail, maybe if it's after hours, or sit down, write a letter, and send it in. So those are my favorite ways to do it.
Hello again. So I am a senior now, but my freshman year, when I first went on the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice, some of the things that I did not immediately after, but not too far after, were attend the Ecumenical Legislative Briefing Day in Lincoln. I also did a legislative visit in the spring semester to try and follow up on some of that information that I had learned. And then also in the spring semester, I applied to be on the Ignatian Advocacy team with the SCSJ. So those are some of the things that I have done following the Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice.
Just a few more examples from our office and our team. We try to embed as an office advocacy in all that we do. So we know that charity can meet a direct need, but justice really helps go to the root. So if your school is having a canned food drive now in times of coronavirus, you could have a basket for postcards and letters that address the root cause. So we want to meet the immediate need that anyone in our community is experiencing, and we want to work long term so that human need, that desperation and need for food doesn't exist in the future. So you might consider checking out Bread for the World to have an offering of letters to go along with a direct service experience. We also try to embed advocacy as an office in any time that we have a captive audience. So famously in a service and justice trip meeting, when we were getting ready for those typical immersion experiences, we had students pull out their phone and do an online advocacy action, and we got 212 actions in one day in Nebraska, and we were like off the charts in Congress because they were like, what's going on in Nebraska? Well, we had a ballroom of people together and we had them all take one action step. Now in times of Zoom, we have to do things a little bit differently, but I invite you to think about, where do you have a captive audience? Where do you have a collaboration? How could you embed advocacy in any incidences of charity that you can help people move towards the justice lens as well? And how can you expand your scale and scope to increase the effectiveness and engagement in your advocacy?
Now, to speak a little bit more on some direct action items that we have seen around our community. Here at Creighton, voter registration, we held a voter registration drive, which was very important to make sure that all the students had all of their information and made sure that they were registered and ready to vote. Any high school senior that may be 18, it is important to register to vote and to make sure that you use your voice, and especially in these COVID times, make sure that you do that a little sooner so you can get your ballot in the mail, which is very important. And even if you're not quite 18 yet, it is important to register as soon as you are 18, because even in off years, there are normally some sort of local elections, which are just as important, if not more important, than presidential elections. As for other sort of peaceful protests that we see going around in our community, on the high school level, there is an Omaha Students for Sustainability run by high school students, where they talk about climate justice, and they scheduled a climate strike where they are fighting for environmental justice. On the college level here at Creighton, our African American Student Association put on a die-in where students were able to go in and sit across the mall and learn about a person of color, a Black person who was killed by police brutality, and be able to sit in silence and learn about action steps that can be taken forward. And in the community in downtown Omaha and Liberation Square, every week for about a couple months now, there has been a protest about racial injustice. So these are just a few action steps that are being taken in our local community.
Additionally, some indirect action steps that have been taken within our community, but you can also bring into yours, are writing letters and postcards to your representatives within whatever type of leadership position that they might hold, so that they take into account your own ideas and values for their future action steps as an organization. Additionally, we say go and try out different community organizations so that you can learn what is happening in your community surrounding these environmental and racial injustices that we are all advocating for. Additionally, I'm going to provide another action step. So you all are able to call your representative at any point in the day. So search their name, or if you don't know who they are, look up who your representative is, and you can give them a call. So I already have my person, who is Senator Ben Sass, in my phone. So I'm going to give him a quick call, and you're going to get to hear the conversation. It's ringing. Hi, Patrick. My name is Gabby Baker, and I'm a constituent of Senator Sass's from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm here to urge the senator to pass H.R. 6, the Dream and Promise Act, so that TPS beneficiaries are able to continue to live within our community. They are valued members, and they deserve a path to citizenship. Their lives should not be left in limbo when they've lived in the United States for decades. So please ask the senator to spread awareness about this issue so that we can help protect the lives and livelihoods of Americans. The Dream and Promise Act. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, my name is Gabby Baker, and my phone number is 307-399-7835. Yeah, I'm a student at Creighton University, and I'm registered under 2500 California Plaza. Great, thank you so much. Thanks, you too. Bye. And we just advocated. So you can continue to do that within your own communities yourselves. And every day, just keep their phone number in your phone and continue to call them. And then you can continue to advocate for issues that you feel strongly about. Additionally, following this Ignatian Family Teach-In for Justice, you should be completing legislative visits with your own representatives. So instead of solely calling them, you'll probably be able to be Zooming with them. If you haven't scheduled one with your own group, make sure to just reach out and contact them, because they encourage their own constituents to reach out and tell them what they hope to see change, and they're always willing to meet with you. So reach out and it'll be really good, just like this call. But about a week ago, I had also sat in a legislative visit with one of my other representatives from Nebraska, talking about the temporary protected status of individuals within the United States and also in Nebraska. Always make sure that you research the legislation that you're trying to have them pass or support or deny, and then give them examples as to why you believe that they should support that piece and what action steps they can continue forward.
Another huge way that we can promote social justice is through media advocacy work. A huge thing that we see going around right now are Instagram stories, which can be really important because they are an initial way to really educate yourself on important topics that are going around. As we see here, I linked a few. So I have how I check my biases, the one about votes, and the coral gardeners. All of these are just very initially aesthetically pleasing, which does make people want to look at them. And as you scroll through the different pictures, they give more information. And what a lot of these have done is offered an action step, whether that be taking your own test to find your hidden bias, or how you can get involved in making sure that everyone is able to have an equal vote, or how you can get involved with the support the movement of the coral gardeners. Regardless, there are a lot of ways that you can go about it, and Instagram is a great way to make sure that you are getting the word out. But it is always important that once you are really educating yourself on the basics that are provided here, that you follow that with an action step, and that way we're able to get a lot further.
So as you are winding down through this presentation and this entire week, it's time for you to self-reflect, because that is one of the most important pieces for you to do as a person and as an advocate. So Mayala is going to read a quick quote from our SESJ office around this topic.
We at the SESJ believe that reflection is critical to any experience we have. If we don't take time to reflect on what we learned, felt, were challenged by, or questions we still have, then we can't fully integrate our experience. As part of our Creighton University for and with others, today we ask you all to enter time in self-reflection.
So we ask you to ask yourselves, how educated are you on the topic that you are advocating for, or that you're interested in advocating about?
What can you do to support yourself and support the others around you that are also advocating by not burning out and making sure that you are caring for yourself too.
How will you engage with your family and friends on these topics, especially following this trip and virtual experience? How are you going to use what you've learned here to educate others around you and in your community?
In everyday life, how will you use your advocacy skills to promote justice? Don't let it stop here. After having a whole week of learning and being able to really experience what it is to be an advocate, how can you continue doing the work?
In order to just fully reflect on this entire presentation given to you, we ask you to take away 3 things. First, find out what motivates you to act. What social justice issues are you going to continue to advocate for? Additionally, our second point is, how will you be able to accomplish this? What steps are you going to take to advocate for this change? And third, how can you find the support to continue on in your work within both your community and yourself so that you're motivated to continue to push and advocate for these social justice issues?
We want to give a big thank you to ISN for giving us the opportunity to come and talk to everyone today. And we want to thank each and every one of you for listening to our presentation and for continuing the work. We are very, very proud of you and very excited to see what you can all accomplish. And we hope to see some of you accomplish those great things here at Creighton. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck.